Hey guys, be sure to like and subscribe. Today I want to talk a little bit about IDs, and I also want to talk a little bit about McDonald's and how McDonald's is starting to progress over here a little bit. And I think they'll start getting orders straight for once, which is good. And I see things going in a kind of a good direction, but it's kind of a sad direction at the same time. We'll cover that too. But I want to cover mostly about IDs. The other day I walked into a Western Union. I went there to pick up a few dollars from somebody that somebody had sent to me to take care of something for them. And when I went in there, I know that the IDs that I need for Western Union. And I slapped on my passport card, which it says on the thing, passports, and a passport card is actually a passport, whether some people know that or not. It is a passport card. It's used for getting in to the U.S. passport cards are used for getting into like Mexico. They're also for the Caribbean. It's used for getting into Canada, but it's a passport in its own right. It's a passport, and also it's a legal document throughout the ID document throughout the world. It can be used as ID in most places. Most places accept it. Every place that they've asked me for an ID, I usually throw that out firsthand, and usually 99 and 9/10 of the time it gets accepted. And at this particular Western Union, I threw it down, and the lady says, "We don't accept that." She goes, "We need your passport." And I says, "That is my passport." I said, "I don't carry my other passport around me. I'm a resident here." And then she says, "We also need another form of ID." So I slapped down one of their forms of ID, which is the SRRV retirement visa. It's a ID card, and I'm looking right at me on my right hand side on the window, because there's a window between me and the lady there, and it tells me what all the stuff that's accepted. So when I'm on there and I'm looking on there, and it says SRRV ID card. So I'm like, okay, I'm good. The lady says, "We don't accept that." I'm like, man, this lady has no common sense. She's not accepting a passport, passport ID, and she's not accepting things that are on her list. So the people behind me are starting to grumble a little bit because, number one, she's taken up with her lack of common sense, we'll say. She's holding up the line and holding everybody up. So I says, look, every other place I've gone, they've accepted the passport ID card, and they also, I says, the other thing is something that you guys accept. I says, don't tell me that you don't accept it, because you do accept it. She goes, "No, sir, I've never seen one of these before. I don't even know what it is. I'm not accepting that." I says, "Well, it says right here on your list of things that you can use for non-residents in the Philippines. That's one of the things that's listed, and it also says passports." So she's like looking at me like kind of cross-eyed. She goes, "Well, sir, I have to make a phone call." I says, "You don't even have to make a phone call." He says, "It says right there, SRRV ID card." I says, "That's what that is." I says, "Look on it, read it." I says, "That's one of your IDs from your country." She keeps on going with it. Says, "Sir, I've never seen one. I'm not going to accept it. Let me make some phone calls." I'm like, "Okay, make your phone calls." And I'm getting a little bit upset. The people behind us saying, "Man, she's really messing up, because those things have to be accepted." I mean, it just makes sense. I got a mosquito in here flying around the house. But anyway, finally, they get back to her. And it took like about 5 or 10 minutes waiting for their phone call to come back. She goes, "They're going to call me back." So they call back. They says, "Yes, passport ID is a passport." Exactly what I had said. And they said the SRRV card, that's an ID card which is listed on the list. And they said I think they told her, "I don't know why you're not accepting," because she's like, "Okay, Paul, sorry, Paul," like on the phone. So I'm like, okay, she must be getting yelled at or whatever. But sometimes in the Philippines, there's like a lack of common sense with people that are in high positions, and it's not everywhere, but I'm saying it's quite common, and it's actually one of the things that a lot of expats complain about a lot. And it drips all the way down to McDonald's, okay? But I want to touch on this a little bit before we go into the McDonald's thing, okay? Because that's next. Is that as long as you have that passport ID and you have an SRRV card or ACR card if you're a tourist, you can also get the the resident visa, not resident visa, resident ID card over here, the Philippines ID card that they have, national ID. That's what it's called, Philippine National ID. I'm sorry. You can get the Philippine National ID card over here. It's not for tourists, but it is for SRRV holders, okay? There's a whole list of people that qualify for that. Check on there and you can see who's qualifies for it. It's very easy to get, takes about an hour. It's a good card to have. And they will accept that because they have to accept that because that's what it's for, okay? But anyway, what I want to say is this, is always have a bunch of IDs with you when you go traveling in the Philippines. If somebody pulls you over or they're questioning you. Now, some people say, well, Steve, I carry my passport wherever I go. And that's a good idea, but it takes up a lot of pocket space too, or it takes up, a lot of your fanny pack space or whatever, carrying that with you. And I tell people, just lock that up someplace, have it hidden someplace or whatever. And that's a good idea that, if you're going someplace and you think you're going to need an important ID, think by all means take it with you. But a lot of times, I'd rather just carry the basic IDs, your license, your driver's license in the Philippines or what have you, things like that are accepted. You can also get the postal ID here. And I believe tourists can get the postal ID, but don't quote me on that, okay? But I believe that you can get that because somebody told me that they got it and they were on a tourist visa over here, okay? Now, we're gonna get into McDonald's next, okay? McDonald's. I was over in Alabang the other day and I was really pleasantly surprised when I walked into this McDonald's and it had those machines there that you type in what you want. And they're a little bit difficult to learn at first, but it's actually easy after you use them more and more. And this is like about the third time I've used one. And I was really impressed. And here's the thing. I went in there, I ordered my food, and they have fintech technology on there too, like it's Pay Maya. So you can pay with Pay Maya. But some expats have problems with that. And I myself don't use that, but I'm thinking about starting to use it. But I did notice that the guy that was with me, who was an expat, also had some problems with Pay Maya using that fintech. He was having problems getting the money to, load up into the machine there so he could pay for his food. But when I got up to the register, the French fries came in a bowl. They served you like you were in a finer restaurant than just a McDonald's. And I was quite impressed. And they got the order right. And that's unusual in McDonald's. Any expat will tell you that it's unusual for you to get your order right at McDonald's. If there's one thing that the Philippines is consistent for, is at McDonald's, they'll usually get your order wrong. And the other thing that's pretty consistent is when you go someplace, they'll always want an ID that you don't have. Or they'll tell you that your ID is no good when it is good, because you'll get somebody that really doesn't know what they're doing and they're not using common sense or what have you. And I want to talk about both of those because it's important. Carry a bundle of IDs with you, because when you go someplace and they're always gonna ask you for the ID that you left home. They're always gonna ask you for the document you left home. And the other thing here is also, if you have a COVID card, because you will need a COVID card to eat in a restaurant, make sure you copy it and get it laminated or whatever. Do not laminate your other copy, because I found that out the hard way at the VA. They said because you have to put the boosters on there. Okay, so make sure you do not get it laminated. Okay, and what you do is just carry that copy and it's accepted, or you can take a picture on your phone, and that's usually accepted at most restaurants over here. Okay, and you'll be good. But play it safe all the time, guys. Carry most of your IDs, but have a couple IDs at home. If you're gonna take out your passport ID card with you, leave your other passport home. If you're gonna take your passport with you, leave your passport ID home, someplace hidden. That way there, if one goes missing or you get robbed or get stolen or what have you, at least you have an ID to walk into the embassy to go take care of business and go get another passport or passport ID card. Okay? But I want to throw that out there today, guys. It's kind of important always to carry IDs with you wherever you are in the world, especially when you're traveling as an expat. it's really key to survival over here, is having good IDs, number one, and also have emergency ATM cards too. If your bank will allow you to have more than one, tell them you want two. Okay, that's another key thing that you need over here usually. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching today. Happy New Year, and I wish you guys the best in the next year. I've been suffering today from kidney stones today, so I've had like a rough day, but thank God I passed the kidney stones today, but I'm feeling better now. But God bless, guys, in the new year, and I wish you guys all the best. Thanks, guys.